I think we are ready to start the conference. So I think we can announce that our second international conference on ergonomics is officially open. My name is Kendris. Mainly you already know me, and I will just quickly introduce you with what we are going to do today. So as you can see here, we will open now. Then we have a first part of the presentations. We have a coffee break. Coffee break is at 2:15, but we need to change the room for 301 room. 301, yeah, 301, third floor. There is a special table for coffee, so all of you are very, very welcome and invited. And then we will have a second part of the presentations, and then we will be closing at around 5 o'clock today. Just before we start, I have to express really thanks for CRE. This is Center for Registration of European Ergonomists, and FEES, Federation of European Ergonomic Societies, that they agreed and are taking a part in our conference and will present very useful presentations and share their knowledge and experience in ergonomics. So Maggie Graf, former president of CRE, and then we have FEES president at the moment, Sylvain Leduc. Maria Nielsen, also representing CRE. Bernard Degu, sorry for pronunciation, CRE president. And of course, we will also have some local speakers, and I'm very honored that also State Labor Inspectorate Director is here, Renārs Lūsis, and Occupational Health and Safety Institute Director Ivars Vanadziņš is also here. And of course, you know, President of Latvian Ergonomic Society is Ženija Roja, and she is also the Master Degree Study Program Director of Occupational Health and Safety, but the right name is Work Environment Protection and Expertise of this kind of Master Study Program at the moment in University of Latvia. So I think I will give a floor to Ženija to start the introductory speech, and so I hope we will have a great conference day today. And so please also participate in a conference with listening. I am suggesting not to ask questions after each presentation. Maybe we can leave it for discussion part after it, because we have a tight schedule at the moment. Yes. So please, Professor Roja.
Hello, everybody. Today we meet in the second International Ergonomics Conference, and this conference is organized by the framework of University of Latvia Master Degree Study Programs Work Environment and Expertise, in collaboration with Latvian Ergonomic Society. And we have to express gratitude to our general sponsor, Ergoland Design and Latvian Ergonomic Society. We are honored about our special guests, who say Henry Skalčes, and our local guests from State Labor Inspectorate and Occupational Health and Safety Institute Director. And also today in this auditorium we have our Master Study Program students and Latvian Ergonomics Society members. And thank you very much about your that you are stay in this auditorium. And now I would like, first of all, say some words about situation in the world. Despite big changes in the labor market, we have also big changes in the political situation in the world. And in this context, I would like to ask you to stand up and one silence moment to remember the people who was moved in Paris terror attacks on 13th November. I think that you also, all of us know about this situation. Thank you very much. Some words about continue our work, about our ergonomic society. Some words. We are a new society. From 2.6 year we have Latvian Ergonomic Society. Our members, approximately 70 members who are registered every year. And society's members are physical, safety specialists, doctors, medical doctors, architects, designers, engineers, and etc. They are our members. And now I would like to say about some words about situation in Latvia. We have also a very big problem with musculoskeletal disorders. It's our employees contingents. And as you see in this picture, musculoskeletal disorders is very big percent, 65%. And occupational diseases are also tendency to growth in Latvia. I think that it is like as in other European Union countries. Main reasons why it is such problem. Work processes containing hard manual handling, compulsory work postures, inappropriate workplaces, lack of employees' involvement in decision making, insufficient physical activities after the work on or leisure time for employees. Frequently workers agree to work without contracts. It is a big problem in Latvia. And one big problem I think also is stress at work. Stress and violence at work. Why it is? Stress factors related to inappropriate applications of ergonomics. Repetitive work, high pace, just in the time operations, and we have also 24 hours employees. Psychological incompatibility at the work team, fight for rules, status, and fall for losing the job. And now problem with migrants and refugees. It is also will be a big problem in Latvia, as we say, tomorrow. Potential solutions. What we think about ergonomics development in Latvia and how we work in the future. We think that we have no understanding in our employers and employees about ergonomics rule in occupation and rules in occupational health and safety. And continue collaboration is less of continued collaboration with government and non-government organizations. And for future work, we will think and we will work with FEES, Federation of European Ergonomic Societies, International Ergonomics Association, Center for Registration of European Ergonomists, and we continue educational work about ergonomics and promote understandings about benefits of ergonomics coherence with productivity and well-being among Latvian society, including employees and employers. Need to make cost-benefits analysis and return on investment analysis. And now we will, not today, but in future, we will start to certify European ergonomists in under Latvian ergonomic societies. No, I think that it is in shortly all what I would like to say you, and thank you for attention.
Okay, I think we will continue with State Labor Inspectorate presentation from Latvia, from Renārs Lūsis, and he will introduce about main actualities in labor protection in Latvia today.
Thank you, Henry. Good afternoon to everyone. As Henry already announced, I'm Renārs Lūsis from Latvia, representing State Labor Inspectorate. And today I'll talk more about actualities at the moment in the field of health and safety. So here we go. Almost. Yes. So what's our job as a labor inspectorate in the field of health and safety? So what are we doing in order to, say, ensure the situation is improving? So this year, for 2015, we had, of course, two major priorities. One is still remaining, it is undeclared employment. But that has already, Jenny, I think, touched upon this issue, is that undeclared employment, in fact, has already, as well, an impact on health and safety. And the second, our biggest priority is also a reduction of accidents, serious and fatal accidents in Latvia. As 2014, as you maybe know, was one of the worst, at least in the last 5 years, where we had a very, very high number of fatalities. So in order to do something about it, what we are doing this year, and what we are doing a bit differently this year, is that we negotiated with this ministry and had an agreement that this year we'll have additional possibilities to go for preventive inspections. So that's why I mentioned this preventive inspection, 2,000, which we previously didn't have. So we switched part of our resources from undeclared employment for prevention of health and safety. So this is where we gained our resources, because we didn't get additional resources, but we made an internal switch. So we were able to do a bit more this year on prevention. And within those 2,000 inspections, which are with a preventive approach, we had, of course, also our thematic campaigns, which we have annually. This year we had 4 annual campaigns. One was on woodworking and forestry, one is on construction, and one is on transport. So why these branches? The reason and the quick answer is, of course, these are dangerous branches, and we also find that these are the branches which deliver most of the fatalities and most of the severe accidents. And one additional campaign which is still continuing at the moment is one where we are going to those companies who have in the past some bad records of accidents for more than 5 years, where they are repeatedly happening. So we are going to check them. Is there some systematic problems with them, and could they do something better? So we also practiced this year one-day, let's say, interventions countrywide, which was a bit new to us because we didn't do that last 5 years. So that means that we are going at the same time and announcing to one specific, let's say, branch to check if health and safety, for instance, is working. We did that campaign just in November. And we went for a Maxima retail company, I mean the commercial company, and we went to 28 different shops at the same time, at the same day. We are planning to do one more next week. I'm not announcing where we will be going, but we have this sort of campaigns to see if companies are really complying with the rules. And we, of course, are doing also a lot of information education stuff together also with Ivars Institute. And we think that this is also a very important part of our business to bring health and safety culture up to date. So here you see statistics over the last 5 years. Of course, 2015, it's just the latest numbers. They are operative data which are changing. They will be different at the end of the year, of course. This is what we have for a moment. But we are a bit positive, let's say, carefully positive towards the outcome of this year. If the tendency will continue and there will be no, let's say, huge accidents happening at the very last months of the year. We hope that this year will be much better than the last one, and maybe even the best of the last 5 years. So, but if those were, let's say, actual and complete numbers, these are the ones which we can compare ourselves towards our neighbor countries, at least, and towards the numbers which we see in European Union as average. Our line is a red one. This is Latvia statistics. So as you can see, we have been always a bit better than our colleagues in Lithuania, and again a bit behind our colleagues in Estonia, and approximately twice as bad as in average in Europe, which we are not proud, of course. So this year, again, the situation seems to be improving. So we see this tendency, which is positive. Maybe it will be not that low as it is at the moment, because this is again just taken by the numbers we have for today. But again, we have some positive hopes that this year could really end up with some positive results, with better results certainly. So if you look at the economic branches which are delivering most of the accidents, or where the most problems are, so which is not a surprise, of course. First place this year again is forestry. So accidents happening in the woods, because there are a lot of self-employed or so-called self-employed persons working in forestry without proper protection, without proper training. This is one of the reasons why accidents do happen, and when they happen, when some tree fall on some person, of course, the outcome in most cases is fatal or severe. Severe, I would say it's lucky if it is severe. Construction might be a surprise, but yet it's only one fatality this year, which is a huge improvement comparing to the last 10 years, if I shall to compare. Just last year we had 5, so now it's 1. We of course are quite pleased with this positive tendencies. We know that this might be a bit, let's say, lucky in the branch, because we don't think that there is so much improvement done over the last years that we have to see this picture every day, but we are pleased to see that there is some improvement in the branch, and of course we will continue to look after this branch also in the next years, even though maybe statistics say there are some improvements to be noticed. And transport, it's number 2 at the moment, but it was number 1 last year. And in transport, I must say that yes, part of the accidents are also, of course, those are happening on the roads, which are also health and safety accidents or occupational accidents, because they're happening with employees doing their job duties. So that's why it's also very important how we can progress in let's say, safety driving culture also in Latvia, because that, of course, and infrastructure as well, that influences also the statistics on occupational health and safety. So if we again look for the causes, so why accidents happen, if you just read them yourself, I will not repeat every one and single, but you can see that those starting from red to purple combined, they are more or less, they are organizational causes. So that's not the problem of a lack of, let's say, proper equipment, lack of proper, let's say, technology. It's usually lack of training, lack of observation of those, let's say, instructions, lack of control, lack of proper working methods. So I mean, this is not a huge financial investment which is needed to prevent those accidents. It's mainly because these are happening of poor preventive and safety culture in the companies. Poor, let's say, or maybe formal approach from the company side, and maybe brave or let's say, negligent approach from the side of employees. One more thing I'd like to also bring your attention to, it's so-called natural deaths. Yeah, one may say, of course, we spend more than 1/3, at these days I think it's even more than 1/3 of our lives at the workplace, so naturally it could happen that people are dying at work as well, because we are so often at work. But if you look at the numbers, they are quite impressive, I think. In some years, they even exceed the number of fatalities in that year. Means that, okay, we have one official statistics, which is for fatalities, which we can prove and relate to job, and these are still numbers which we don't count. We know about them, because those are accidents which happen, we investigate them, we say, consider it, okay, it was not related, or we cannot prove it was related with the job, but then these numbers are quite high. And we don't know nothing about, and this is not mentioned here, about those people who maybe go to home and die there straight after the job. I mean, this also could be happening, but we don't investigate, of course, those cases. So the trouble thing is that when you start analyze these situations, that it's not only very, very old people dying at work, like after age of 60 or 70, you may think. They're age of 45, age of 50, age of 35. The youngest, I think, was 21. And then one may question, is it really a natural death? We should consider it as natural at that age. We don't have, let's say, proof for its relation to the work, and yet we might consider that very, very many factors which are indirectly inputting person's health might still are coming from job. So but there you need a huge improvement, which we usually don't have from medics as well. Yeah, and I have mentioned here that transport is one of, let's say, main contributors. Drivers, for instance. If you take some years, it's around like 20% of those natural deaths are happening with transport within transport companies, meaning mainly drivers. Again, you may question their working style, working life, and then the habits and so on, which of course have some input. But again, also there are some stuff like driving hours, proper rest, and so on, which are having an impact on your health and, of course, on your heart and blood system as well. So this is average numbers, just to amuse you probably, yeah. So what is the person in average who dies at work? So age 53, maybe it doesn't sound so bad, but again, is that the age the person is expected to die normally? I guess not. And it's just an average, so you can imagine there were some ages which made this average to be 53. Yes, there are qualified workers, so this is not like the very, very simple workers, so they are mainly qualified. And the reasons of the death is circulatory diseases mainly. So, things to consider. So what is the relation to this job? Probably. One is working hours, that's why we made this campaign this year on transport, together with transport police. We stop the drivers, check their working hours, check if they have proper rest, because we thought this might be a proof, this might be an issue we need to check. Physical and psychosocial overload, which goes together with the fact that if you don't have enough income, you might look for some, let's say, additional job somewhere else. So this is a combination that perhaps in that one place, specific place, he's not overworking, he's taking some second job and he's continuing to work after 8 hours, he's having next 8 hours or next 6 hours, whatever, but it still has some impact on person's health, which he maybe or she maybe doesn't consider important. So proper rest is of course very, very important. Eating habits again. Yes, if you just sit and drive or sit and eat unhealthy food, it's sooner or later will catch you. So the lifestyle, I think it was also mentioned by Professor Roya, that these are the issues which are having an impact on health and safety as well. So, and one maybe not proved issue yet, but one thing I would like to bring your attention to and to consider. Of course, we know here in mass media regarding energy drinks, how bad they are, how, let's say, bad impact they may have on youngsters. But they are very, very popular also, of course, among drivers who are using them very, very much in order not to get fall asleep during the drive. So they drink those drinks. Maybe for getting sleep, they drink some medicine, to take some medicine in order to fall asleep, have some rest, because they are so energized they couldn't get to sleep. So all that combination. And unfortunately, we hear that even in companies, they are considering providing some medicine to energize employees in order to get some better results, so that people could focus, could really work faster at the workplace. But we have nothing about, we don't know nothing about this, let's say, impact on health. And that's why maybe we are wondering about natural deaths at the age of 35, age of 40, because persons are working too hard, they are taking medicines, they maybe don't know the impact on their health. They're under huge working pressure, both physically and mentally. So these are still having some impact. We don't have yet proof for that. I think it's maybe one of the things we would like to ask in the next planning period, to check in some of the surveys, but it's already troubling at the moment. Yes, well, now about some positive stuff regarding some information issues. Yes, we were doing a lot of information things and activities this year. This was, of course, the year of Latvian presidency, so we had special attention for health and safety. We had two huge activities in Riga as a presidency country. And one was a conference on health and safety, a very big conference, and it was first time when in Latvia Health and Good Practice Award was awarded to those good companies in Europe, in the Union. So those companies came to Latvia to receive that award from European Agency of Health and Safety at Work. So a lot of, let's say, use of mass media as modern technologies in order to spread the message of health and safety. We also have our new employee. You can see him in the picture, not me, but the next guy next to me. And we have him under our employment, so we use him actively. In fact, when we go to some schools, talk to children, go to some kindergartens, and also even to some events, we use him. We, let's say, bring some more health and safety attention to the issue. And one more issue, one more thing, it's OIRA. It's very interesting and valuable tool. I hope all this audience knows about it. So this is how it looks like. Yeah, here you have a web page if you like to go and check. And what's interesting about OIRA is that at the beginning Latvia was one of the, let's say, first and one of the most active countries who use this tool, who get one of the most numbers of different OIRA modules. So at the moment we in Latvia have 4 modules. One is for shops, one is for agriculture, one is for educational institutions, and one is for offices. So 4 at the moment. But if you have some relation to some of those branches, you actually may use, but maybe not really the exact branch, you may use the module as it is, but you can add your own risks into that module. It's pretty flexible and it provides a lot of options for you. So it's again free of charge risk assessment tool, which could be used mainly for small and medium-sized enterprises. It's quite simple in its development, and it's going to be really, let's say, helpful for small and medium businesses. So at the moment we have more than 2,300, almost 2,400 users, almost 3,000 risk assessments done with this tool, so it's quite a decent achievement, we think so. And in an upcoming year, next year, we are developing 5 new modules, which again will be free of charge, distributed to the companies, and hopefully will be used by them. So, about some information campaigns, as you may know, this was these 2 years, this year and the one before, was dedicated to stress issue in Europe. So this is one of the, in fact, one of the biggest problems in Europe at the moment, together with ergonomics. This is now concluded, so the Best Practice Awards ceremony was held in Riga. We had a good practice closing event in Bilbao just 1 month ago. And next year is approaching. So what's becoming next year? So what we are to expect? So next year is dedicated for, again, a very topical issue. It's, one may say, active aging, but the formation of the topic is more in the lines like safe and healthy workplaces at any age, meaning that we need to think about people coming into workplace and how to keep them longer healthy at the workplace. So this is a topic for the next 2 years. And again, I think this is quite related with the topic of ergonomics. So I think there is still some space also for this society here, for you here, also to contribute to this campaign and maybe to seek for some best practice ideas to contribute to this campaign. So as we are approaching to this topic, what we shall know and what is maybe relation with ergonomics here. 70% of people after age of 55 do have some chronic disease. And more than 50% of employees in Latvia, because this is a survey from Latvia again, this is the last one, have some long-term health issues which are, let's say, taking more than 6 months. And they are influencing their daily life. So at the moment, the situation is quite bad if you look at workers at the very, let's say, last years of their career. So that they are not really healthy, and it would be a very big challenge to keep them healthy if they are not at the moment. So risks and adjustments we need to consider for employment of older workers. It's of course that stress and ergonomics, these are two biggest issues in Europe. And there are two biggest issues why people are leaving the job and maybe leaving earlier as they would like to. So persons, of course, at a certain age, they are not so fit for work. So you have to consider that, giving this physical and psychologically demanding tasks. So you may need to adjust those tasks. So again, slips, trips, and falls. If for young people, this may take some not so severe injury. For people at, let's say, retirement age or before retirement age, it might be also together with their health issues, osteoporosis, things, and so on. With this slips, trips, and falls, a small accident, normal case, could become quite severe accident. So you need to be more careful regarding the adjustment of workplace, design of workplace, not to fall, not to, let's say, bring some maybe unnecessary stairs and so on and so on. So again, some visual problems could be considered, some lower level of attention. Well, you need to know. So again, pace of the work, shall consider that. So health promotion activities maybe is quite important activities which you need to consider, especially when you look for elderly workforce. So is there a role for ergonomics here in this problem? I think definitely there is. So in conclusion, some near future and already existing challenges. We were not aligning our presentations with Mr. Roya, but when you consider those, what she already named you as the problems and challenges, and when you see mine, well, in parallel we have sort of many, let's say, common things. So undeclared employment, yes, it is a problem already now. It is having an impact on health and safety, and it will be still a combined issue to look after in the future. So growing foreign workforce and also foreign employers, I must say. This is a challenge we shall consider because there's language issue, language barrier, sort of training maybe. Also communication, if we are doing inspections, it is a problem, both with employers and employees. Sometimes it's played, so they don't understand, not Russian, not English, not Latvian, nothing. When you talk to them and when it's, let's say, for their best not to understand. And of course, issues like temper and also violence. We see now it's like from case to case, this is becoming an issue, but if this issue of foreign workforce will grow, we will be facing maybe quite big challenges. Aging workforce, I talked about already this one. So reduction of natural deaths, to find the causes for those and to bring proper, let's say, preventive issues. And of course, in general, how to raise this preventive culture, which is one of the most, let's say, important things to reduce those organizational causes for an accident. How to raise this preventive culture in companies, from employer side, from employees, in society in general. This is a huge task and challenge for the future. So these are our, let's say, activities in multimedia. So if you like follow us on Twitter, Facebook, you would like to see some, let's say, training materials. We have some videos on YouTube. You have some seminars on YouTube. So you may really use those websites and Twitter accounts and so on to follow and to learn more about health and safety. And also, if you like some services from Labor Inspectorate, we have some e-services as well at the moment. So this is one of the decent things we have done. So thank you for your attention. Always cruise me if you have some questions in the coffee break.
Okay, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. And of course, we will leave questions for a coffee break. So Ivars, I can ask maybe for your presentation as the next. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, hello everybody. The chairmans, the colleagues, I'm pleased to be here today and to talk a little bit more on, actually to continue what has been already mentioned a few times, and to discuss the changes in the occupational health and safety system, and more precisely in the results of this system in Latvia over the last, let's say, 15-20 years. The first thing I'm going to say is actually to say a few words on the aim of the presentation. It is actually to look at the situation with regards to morbidity with occupational diseases. And I think the major challenge that we see here is that the structure of occupational diseases have changed because the work environment, the workplaces, they have changed a lot. And I think over the last 20 years, if we look back in time, we will see that we actually probably have bigger changes than we sometimes think. For example, today we have the online this conference is also available online. We would never have thought about it even 5 years ago. That wouldn't be possible. Today, this is a reality. And also the workplaces, they have changed a lot. So naturally, it is always interesting to look at what we call the indicators, the numbers of occupational health and safety. And my particular concern is to look at the occupational diseases, as occupational accidents. They were already covered a few minutes ago. Briefly, I know most of my colleagues are well familiar, but for our foreign guests, I just have listed some of the major developments in the system of registration for occupational diseases. It actually goes back a long time, even before 1997, as it was quite well established in the Soviet times before 1991. It was not totally abandoned. Meanwhile, in the period between 91-97, and we have first regulations on this system since 1997 in place. There has been several changes on the way. Several legal requirements were changed a few times, and it actually reflects very well on the statistics, as you will see in the next slide. Basically, I can say that the main conclusion actually is, even at this stage of my presentation, as you can see very clearly, that the incidence and the numbers of occupational patients, it has increased a lot. And you see, for example, in this slide, if we compare the numbers since 1993 up to 2014, so it's quite a long period of time, we actually see that the number of patients, it has grown over the years. Last year we had a little bit more than 1,200 occupational patients. We actually think that the numbers are even higher. I will explain you a few reasons why do we think so. And not only the total number of patients has gone up, also the number of diseases and the incidence per 100,000 employees. That's the most common number we use in Europe, which is comparable between the countries. It has gone up as well, and we see, for example, it was actually less than 20. We had less than 20 occupational patients per 100,000 people employed in 1993. Now we have nearly 150, so it has gone up quite a lot. And again, of course, we think it's maybe not the real number. Why do we think it's not the real number, and what exactly has changed? Well, there are several things I want to mention during this brief presentation. And first is, first of all, I want to say that we probably see that the picture with our statistics are not 100% certain, because we see the structure of industries in occupational incidents. And it's, I'm always sort of, it's not a joke, unfortunately, but it's always, it used to be true in Latvia to say that the most dangerous industry to work is actually healthcare. Healthcare sector is the most dangerous workplace because it has the highest number of occupational diseases. Agriculture, construction is nothing compared to that. So that has been the reality, and it only shows that it's probably not true. Luckily, I'm quite happy to say that the things have improved. For example, if you look back in 2013, look at the industries, across the industries on the incidence of occupational diseases. For the first time, we actually see that the production industry, which is of course very wide and includes many different things, but finally it has taken the first place, which belongs to it actually, and healthcare is only number 3. So luckily we see also over the years that the structure has changed for the, not for the good, that's not the right word to use, but it has become more realistic. So probably we see a little bit more reliable statistics than we used to see a few years ago. And now I think it's the right time to talk a bit more on the structure of occupational diseases across various sectors, and also to talk on musculoskeletal disorders as a context, in the context of the ergonomical risks at the workplaces. If we look at the numbers of the structure of occupational diseases, we see that among top 10 or top 11 occupational problems we encounter, we registered, actually almost all of them are economical problems, so to say. And that is quite worrying, because 20 years ago the situation was very, very, very different. At that time, the lung diseases, the occupational diseases caused by chemical risks, by dust, by poisonings and things like that, they were the most common. Today we clearly see, like Jenny already mentioned, we see that 2/3 of occupational diseases, they are actually musculoskeletal problems. Unfortunately, we do not see yet, I do not mean that we don't have this problem, we do not see the end result of the workplace stress influence on workers' health. That we do not see in our statistics, at least not yet. I'm quite sure it will come, but not at the moment. And as I mentioned several times, we have a good reason to think that the situation probably is a little bit is actually worse than we see in official numbers. And there are reasons why I think so. First, first of all, we see, for example, we have made several surveys over the last 10 years or so, and the last one was in 2013. And here you actually see all of these three surveys, and you see the answers to a question that was asked to all employees included in the survey. It was nearly 2,500 people in each of the surveys. And we asked actually, what do you think? Do you suffer from a health disorder that's caused by the work environment? And what we can see here is that actually 21% has a positive answer, which means every fifth person actually have a reason to think that his a health problem is in one way or other way connected with workplace problems, and that's quite a high number. Okay, one might think that this is maybe not showing anything. Then we have some other numbers. For example, we asked actually a question that was for the first time included in the survey in 2013. Because actually mostly because of the suspicions that we have a really huge proportion of musculoskeletal and ergonomic problems coming up. And we asked the employees again, we asked, have you had a pain that has been longer than 3 days during the last year? And surprisingly, and not very pleasant surprise it was actually, we saw that actually 1/3, 34% actually, of the employees said, yes, I have had a pain during last year. Mostly that pain actually was in the low back pain, or the pain in the back in general. So basically every third person actually has a pain for more than 3 days due to the workplace problem during last year. And that's a huge number of people actually, if you think about it. And of course we are always we were trying to understand, okay, is it really because of the working conditions? And there are many ways we can look at this issue to analyze it. I will only actually show 2 of them. First of all, we looked at is there a correlation, association among the working conditions and the pain for the employees. And actually there is a correlation. You see that those companies that have implemented good occupational health and safety measures, and they have preventive activities, they have risk assessments, they have things like that. And that's according to the employee's opinion. So he thinks that his company is doing good occupational health and safety aspect. They have significantly less pain, and that's really a big difference. And for the companies that are whose employees are saying, okay, I don't think my company has a good OSH, occupational health and safety standards, you see immediately that they are actually suffering for much more pain than the previous group. So that's one aspect we looked at. And the other aspect we'll have a look was, that's maybe the most important, and here I will come to this today's topic, the ergonomics. And I absolutely agree, more than 100% with what Jenny had told in the opening opening part of this session, that we need more information, we need more training, we need more understanding of ergonomic risk in the workplaces. Because if you look at this chart here, we looked at if there is some correlation among different risk factors in workplaces and complaints about the pain in some of the body parts. And not surprisingly, of course, we see that there is, which is, I think, most interesting in this particular figure is that some of these risks, of course, are absolutely clear and absolutely without any surprises. Like, of course, you would normally think that persons who are mentioning that they have to lift heavy things or they have repetitive movements in the workplace, they have more pain. That's absolutely normal, so to say. Honestly, of course, in many cases, this is easy to prevent, and for that we need more awareness, understanding, and training, of course. But what is surprising that there are some other factors that we wouldn't normally think of as an economic factors, even though I think the modern concept of ergonomics includes that the well-being is the key word, so that people are feeling well, not only that they are not lifting anything heavy. And here we see interesting things. For example, the top factor with the highest correlation between the factor itself and the musculoskeletal disorders and the pain is actually the insufficient light. And that's very easy to prevent, actually, and that's not even very expensive to prevent. And here again we see that not only heavy lifting of heavy things, but also the way we make the workplaces, the way we organize many things, including the light or the temperature, has to do a lot with the musculoskeletal disorders. So these things are also important, and for that we need, of course, a lot of awareness. Then I'm almost coming to the last things I wanted to mention in this short presentation. I think there's one thing I want to specifically mention, and that's maybe the most worrying of all of these. And for that, we need a really well-coordinated approach for training, prevention, information, for many things, actually. And this figure here shows that we asked people who had pain. We asked, okay, what did you do? If you had a pain, what did you do? What was your action? Did you took any measures? And this came as a bad surprise. That actually quite a large proportion of these persons, they actually said, well, I didn't do anything. I just went on. And we see that in the previous figure we actually saw that probably some of these reasons for their pain was very apparent and very simple to get rid of. Very simple preventive measures could have helped. Still, they were not complaining, and they didn't change a thing. So clearly, in a few years' time, they will appear in the first of the indicators we looked a couple of minutes ago. They will appear in the statistics of occupational musculoskeletal disorders. And that's a pity, and that's a challenge, I think, for all of us. Okay, and as a conclusions, I think I've mentioned most of these conclusions already, but just to summarize my message, I think it's clear that there is a really quite a higher number of occupational diseases that we registered today than 20 years ago. That has to do with many factors. First of all, it's, I think, has to do with significant improvements in diagnostics and also the coverage of occupational health surveillance, which is comparatively good. We have a lot of problems in that system, of course, but still, I think if we compare it with Estonia or Lithuania, for example, it's really, I shall say, really of much better coverage that we have here. And of course, I think that still the number of occupational diseases are probably much higher, just because we don't see all of these diseases registered. I mentioned some of the factors behind it, like number of employees complaining about health disorders, or a number of employees complaining about the pain. And also, of course, we see this sectoral distribution of occupational diseases, which just cannot be true. And last thing, we also see that some of the causes for pain and musculoskeletal disorders apparently are very simple to deal with. So with a well-coordinated approach, with more training and awareness, I think we can really change the situation for good in the next years to come. So I think the understanding of the problem and the training and awareness are the keywords also for Latvian ergonomic society and developments in ergonomics in our country. So I thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much for also a very interesting presentation and a very useful and a glimpse in our situation with MSD. I will give the floor to the next speaker, Sylvain Leduc, as FEES president, and he will provide his presentation just in a moment. And can I only one short? Yeah, you can come. But can I ask you to be in a time, because we are a little bit some 10 minutes over the time limit, so just to be in exact time of the presentation. Okay, thank you.
May I first of all express our grateful thanks for the organization of this international conference, and especially from Zenia and RIS. I think it is very important to have this kind of event for us. We are foreigner and for the European level, because in this case we can notice the interest and the vitality that you could have for ergonomics approach and the topics we are discuss today. In order to speak about the issue on occupational safety and health in Europe, firstly, I would like to remind some principal point on risk prevention. Then I will present the current occupational risk. After a brief overview, I want to raise the emerging occupational risk, and to conclude, I will indicate some direction for the future for the ergonomist. To talk about occupational safety and health in preventive approach, need to submit some question on the factor that may compromise it. And the used term of risk is defined as hazard, which means any substance, object, or intrinsic characteristic are harmful for the human's health or safety. So, risk is referred to a situation exposure. And this topic is still high on the agenda in view of change in working conditions that has been expressed by the previous speaker. And at European level, this topic is directly linked with the dynamic of economic affairs. The current occupational risk, for information, we have a regulatory framework which define as a community competence for occupational safety and health since 1989. And one of the elements, it is the Article 168, which is established by the Foundation Agreement of the Treaty of the European Union, which defines the assessment of occupational risk. And it shows in the same time the link between economics and social policy. Because there is a fact about a heterogeneity of national social programs and heterogeneity about social system. And there is several directives which define some prevent measures for OSH. One of these is directly concerned musculoskeletal disorder. For information about European Union, now we are 28 states. It is more over 200 million of workers. And when you ask them their satisfaction about working conditions, you have a major answer, about 85%. But when you speak about the negative effects, you collect 25% of answer on this item. And we know that there is an impact of working condition for workers about 24%. For example, in Germany, there is more than 460 million of sick leave. That is represent 3% of JPD. And in Great Britain, we have some numbers about 3,000 millions for the cost related to occupational disease and accident at work. About deaths from workplace, each year there is 4,000 workers. And the number of major accidents, it is more than 3 million per year. Between 2007 and 2011, there is a decrease of 27% of number of major accidents. But each year we have more than 160,000 deaths due to occupational disease. And between 4 to 8% related to cancer. And stress at work concern more than 50% of workers. It is the second most typical risk. About biomechanical risks, there is 28% of workers. And that we know this last year that there is some effect of economic crisis on working conditions. But it is profitable to invest in occupational safety health prevention. Now, I would like to show you some emerging occupational risk and the challenge for the next year. For information, there is some new goals which are defined by the European strategy for the next years, which are focused on this item as innovative forms of work organization, healthy work environment, we'll speak about this, about the OSH campaign, vocational integration, and the cases of small and medium enterprise. What are the emerging risks? Emerging risk as defined as new product or new technology in one end, and in the other end, that could be some existing product or technology, but with a new use. And the first challenge of the coming year is directly connected with Europe's aging population. The second emerging risk concerns psychosocial well-being. When we ask some question to manager on this topic, they estimated as fairly or very disturbing, and it appears that stress rank first flush work accidents. It's not really new, but musculoskeletal disorder will continue to increase with different factors and different diseases. One of the challenges is linked about nanomaterials, because nanomaterials can be natural, manufactured, or accidental. These are some particles which measure between 1 and 100 nanometers. By analogy, they are the size of a large orange with respect to the Earth. And they increase the physical, chemical, or biological products. But some of them have toxic health effects. This is particularly the case of titanium dioxide or carbon nanotubes. This substance poses several questions in order to understand, assess, and manage occupational risk. This requires new testing methods for toxicity, new forecasting tool risk, right from the stage of development of products. But nanotechnology are expected to generate about more than 2 million jobs worldwide by 2015, including 100,000 in the United States and 400,000 in Europe. Another topic is the endocrine disruptor. This substance which alters the function of the hormonal system or and induce effects on human health or its descendant. For example, this photo shows the treatment of a potato field by DDT in East Germany in 1953. Also, the use of these products is banned in agriculture, but it is still used in some southern countries to fight against malaria mosquito, for example. Moreover, much of DDT in circulation between 1940 and 1960 hasn't disappeared. So, indeed, DDT accumulates along the food chain and remains detectable in the general population in developed countries. Another challenge is linked with electromagnetic waves as radio frequency emitted by devices such as cellular phones, radio transmitter, Wi-Fi, and so on. And the consequences of exposure to these waves are subject to debate. Among the likely effects, there are sleep disturbance, food, or fertility. And these waves are classified as possibly carcinogenic. All these development and emerging risks pose particular challenges for ergonomics knowledges and ergonomics practices. This underlines the need to implement real-work analysis in order to study the occupational risk exposure. That also demonstrates that we have to take into account both global and specific issues. And then we must develop participatory methods which involve knowledge from workers. It is the only way to find out new levers of action to adapt work to the human needs. And last but not least, this raises the issues about the posture of prevented related to the behavior of worker in order to then consider them as misconduct. Thank you for your attention, and before close my speech, I just want to present you this next French ergonomics speaking conference, which will be held in Marseille on September 2016. And this congress is focused on the diversity of ergonomics practices linked to the various knowledge on ergonomics. And you will find more detail on the website. Thank you very much.
So really, thank you very much for a glimpse from a European perspective. Yeah. So next presenter is Bernard Deguy from CRE president. So I give the floor to him. Somebody asked for Wi-Fi.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. I will just to give you an overview about what is CRE and about the case of the certification for ergonomists in Europe. Yeah, you know that the name ergonomist is not a protected name, and we have to face with a special situation in 20 years, 25 years ago, in the middle and beginning of the 90s. Almost everyone could tell him or her an ergonomist, even with a very weak educational background in ergonomics. And it was a problem. At the same time, we had, oh, sorry. At the same time, we had a very big development of the profession in ergonomics. But of course, a lot of confusion about what could do an ergonomist in the real life of work, and a lot of confusion about the range of what is the ergonomic fields. And we have no regulation about what is an ergonomist, and of course no quality control about who could tell him or her ergonomist. And overall, we had a very different situation about academic education system in Europe, especially in ergonomy. And we must say it's more or less always the same issue in some countries today. So we could point out three main needs. The first need was to supply high-quality specialists in ergonomics or in human factors for companies or for an institution, and also protect the profession for low-qualified or unqualified people in ergonomics. And then we also wanted to try to harmonize the educational system in ergonomics in Europe at the beginning. And sometimes it was also some legal requirements about the need of ergonomics, for example, in health and safety association or committee or institution. Thus, yes, we can say that it's some kind of need of credibility, and those needs I think, meet the potential solution pointed out by Zenija in the introduction of this conference. So CRI was created in 1994, and we set a minimum standard for the professional certification in Europe and establish a body to administer the register of European ergonomists and to give the certification for the applicant of the title, for the title European ergonomist. And one of the aim was to provide guarantees, some kind of guarantees to client, to company, to institution who wanted to employ ergonomists. So, and there are two main areas of requirement to get the title, to get the certification. One area about the educational background in ergonomists, and one area on professional experience. And between those two areas, there is a third, we could say, of supervised training after the end of education. So the main idea for the academic education is that the applicant must have at least 3 years, of which 1 year in ergonomics, more or less at the master level. More or less because there are no master level in ergonomics in many countries. So if you can't have a master level in ergonomics, you must pick up some courses in different education courses. And then the second main area is the professional experience in ergonomics for at least 3 years and 1 year of supervised by an experienced ergonomist. Yes, I just show you quickly the different areas of knowledge of the academic requirement. I don't want to comment on those topics, but it means you must have a rather wide education in several topics like physiology, psychology, sociology, at least social and organizational aspect of ergonomics practice. Then CRI today is the members of CRI are the national bodies who assess the candidates in each country. And we are now 14 members in CRI, and we cover almost all Europe, and maybe soon 15. And the CRI Council is comprising representative from each country for each member, and there is also a board. Some bodies are covering several countries. For that, it's not exactly the same figure for members, 14 members, but we cover more or less 20 countries in Europe. So the first, one of the main characteristics is that there is a lot of diversity within the members of CRI. And CRI really want to take into account and reflect this diversity. Diversity because only some countries have diplomas, I had told before, in ergonomics at the master level, so we must find courses in different areas. And there are also very different educational backgrounds regarding the different countries and educational system. And also the ergonomist profession is, there are very diverse structure with a lot of consultants, but it's not the same in each country. And this diversity forces us to adapt the assessment and to promote some kind of flexibility in the assessment to reflect those different history, culture, and situation of ergonomics in the different countries. So, very briefly, the registration process is rather simple. We have an assessment at the national level first, and then there is an assessment at the CRE Council level every 6 months. But there is more decision responsibility and processing at national level than at council level for some years. And we can say there are some effect on the ergonomics profession. And the title has been accepted as a quality criterion in various situations. And for instance, it was required in public orders, in tenders, when big companies want to employ ergonomists. And also the ergonomic certification had consequences on the training curricula in different countries. And some diplomas have been created in several countries or modified to match the educational model requirements. But the title had a little impact on the mobility of ergonomists throughout Europe, because few ergonomists change country, in fact. So if we are looking about where are the European ergonomists employed, we can see most of them are consultant or employed in consultancy companies. But there are now in various professional situations, in institutions, in different public organizations, or in private companies. So, after this first part of the presentation, we can point out some reason for URLs to be certified. In fact, it's the same issue, because there are many other professions which require certification. And even if it's not mandatory for ergonomists, we are sure it can make a difference in many situations. But I want to point out 3 main evolutions of ergonomics in Europe. The first evolution, from my point of view, is that there are more areas of knowledge integrated in the ergonomic approach than before, because many academic areas are in development for 10 years. There are different branches of psychology, psychodynamics, psychopathology, occupational psychopathology, or cognitive psychology, and many different branches of psychology are integrated in the ergonomics approach. And also I don't know if I know it doesn't exist in each country in Europe, but in some countries there is a branch, there is clinic research on work activity, for instance, or anthropology, or there is, at least in France, philosophy of work, and with a lot of ergonomists working on those issues. So I think it's, and of course, engineer science, management science, such topics. So that's the first characteristic of the evolution. The second one is a broader range of intervention fields and more intervention more upstream in the design of the situation of the work situation, and also in prevention issues. So. Yeah. The third main evolution from my point of view is a real improvement of the ergonomic method and practices. For example, how ergonomists can be involved in very big industrial or design projects, and that require to adapt some intervention method. So those evolutions reinforce, from my point of view, the need of high qualified ergonomists. And so I thought about that. We have very diverse areas of implementation, and CRE doesn't want to restrict ergonomics to only one profession or only one kind of practice or one kind of background. So we want to promote, really promote the whole range of what an ergonomist can do. So if we look at the benefits, we can point out for individual. The first is, of course, to give the evidence of a level of professional competence, and also put the emphasis on the involvement of the ergonomist in a professional network. And sometimes it's very useful when you have to collaborate with other specialists. And of course, one of the goals is to defend the specificity of what is ergonomics, facing other professionals who can say themselves ergonomists. And often it can make the difference when you have an open tender, public or not. And also it's the evidence of some kind of commitment for the profession. Right. So, yeah, for the company, the main benefit, of course, is to prove to the benefit of the quality certification, and it can be very often a criterion to recruit human factor specialists, and it also a reference when an institution or a company is looking for a consultant, and when you have to give a recommendation about the need of ergonomists. And also the European ergonomists have to sign a professional code of conduct, and you can, of course, value that in the tenders. So, there are, to conclude, there are some stakes for free that the need we want to preserve, need to allow all ergonomists to apply for the title, whatever their background or whatever their mode of professional practice. And of course, CRE has to make links with the other bodies which represent the profession and which have to promote the ergonomics. And then an overview of the CRE Council in 2015. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for such presentation, and I really hope that we will be able also to establish a national assessment board, which we are hardly working on previous half year. So I hope in the next CRE meeting in next 2 days we will try to form it. Thank you very much. And next I give a floor to Maggie Graf, former president of CRE. Please.
While you're setting that up, thank you very, very much for the invitation to talk to you. It is a great pleasure. When Hendris asked if we would be prepared to make some presentations today, I tried to think what might be useful for you to hear, and I know that we often have examples of prevention of musculoskeletal disorders. We have examples sometimes of cognitive ergonomics. I think that's coming later. So I thought I would present some work that I have been doing with a whole group of other people, which falls into what we call macroergonomics or organizational ergonomics. And I'll explain what that is for those who don't know. Oops, no, that's... just to give you a quick overview, we're running short of time, so please read that yourself, but I'm starting with the background like normal and going to the future. Huh? So you don't need to read this in detail, but it's just to explain where I'm coming from, that this project here is in an organizational ergonomics project because it's concerned with improving the organization of a system, an organizational structure, policies and processes. We're looking at a task, and and particularly how does the training and the qualification of the people doing that task, and here it's the labour inspectors, fit with the task that they're actually having to do, that they need to do. And can we design that work so that it's more effective and in terms of what we're wanting them to do, and of course easier for them to do it. Okay, so the payoff for that, and one always looks for that, for why do you do an ergonomic intervention? Well, it's not completely related to stress, but it is related to well-being. People who can work efficiently will be happier in their work and have less stress, which of course also has positive effects on their health. But the main outcome in this project is to look at how effective and efficient they are and improve their productivity. Now, where we are coming from. There's been changes in the working world. We've heard about those. Psychosocial demands have become very frequent. There are legal requirements that psychosocial problems mustn't endanger the health of workers. And the issue there is that labour inspectors have the job of controlling workplaces to make sure that the laws are being kept, and they have a lot of problems when it comes to psychological issues. I'll explain that in more detail. But just some statistics, we've seen these before, so excuse that this is still partly in German. But you can see there is 2 years there. The yellow columns are the second study, and the green striped columns are the first study. You can see at this end there has been an increase in the number of people who report stress in Switzerland in that 5-year period. And if we compare ourselves to Europe, and we see how well are the companies managing the stress at work, we can see that Switzerland, which is the red columns, is not doing as well as the average European enterprise in managing their psychosocial risks at work. So that was what pushed us to be active in this field. The problems for the labour inspectors that we identified at the beginning of the project, the labour inspectors told us that, well, it's not easy for them to detect or measure psychosocial problems at work. What is a psychosocial problem is defined differently according to who asks the question and who answers it, but certainly we get big differences in the perception of the problem between the workers and the management. There is no classic limit values. You can't say exactly where something becomes dangerous or not dangerous. Usually they said they have multifactorial causes. Actually, I think all accidents have multifactorial causes, but apparently they are more aware of that. The labour inspectors are with psychosocial problems, where of course risks and problems at home can be brought into the workplace. The other problem is the unspecific effects, that asbestosis or something clearly comes from asbestos, but a heart attack or something like that may or may not come from stress at work. So it's very difficult to define the problem. The other one is that, and the one that particularly concerned them, is that for many people, anything to do with psychological issues or mental health are taboo for many people, and it's hard to bring up the topic in the companies. So we had, of course, a cascade, we call that, of aims. The first one is to improve the knowledge and the practice of the labour inspectors, which was, if we do that, we hope to increase employer awareness of psychosocial risks, and that will then improve their practice and hopefully reduce the number of problems related to psychosocial risks at work. However, in what I'm going to describe to you here, we're really only concentrating on the first 2 points, because what happens afterwards can't really be measured in the short term. So the next thing we did, apart from describe the problem, was to look at the role of what can a labour inspector do. And the first thing is that they give information to companies about risks, what they expect that the company should do about good practice. They can advise the companies who may say that we have a problem about some specific issue. But then, of course, they also have to control, to check whether the companies are doing the right thing, and, if necessary, to impose fines or sanctions. So the first thing we did was have a lot of discussions with the labour inspectors about the issues of doing controls, of doing checks in the workplace. The advising was pretty easy, they didn't have a problem with that, but they did have a problem with the issue of control. And these are the 3 points that we said, that we identified that they maybe can control. If you integrate these questions into an audit of the system in a company, you can't go there with a checklist and just tick the boxes, but you can talk to the management like an auditor would and say, and ask the questions, are the psychosocial issues being addressed by the enterprises? Do they take them seriously? If they do, Do they actually do any measures to assess the risks? And if they measure their risks, do they have management plans appropriate? Do they actually do something to improve the situation that's appropriate to the problems that they have? Once we'd done that, we started to say, how are we going to help them with this task? The first thing, of course, was that they got training courses, all of the labour inspectors, over a couple of days, about how to deal with doing inspections for psychosocial risks and how to handle complaints. That's two aspects. The first one is doing an inspection, but what happens if the companies say, oh, I have a problem with this, or that's how do they deal with that? And we had to put together a lot of extra information for the enterprises, because the labour inspectors wanted to have information to give them. So that we made handouts, pub flyers, little brochures on lots of different aspects. There is information on websites, information was sent out in magazines and things. And anyway, that's a lot of extra activities that went into this. So how do we evaluate what we actually did, whether this whole program has achieved anything in terms of our goals? There's two aspects of this. The first one is that we have a series of interviews, of structured interviews with the labour inspectors themselves. Some of those we've already done, of course, before we started, but we're continually checking how it's going and improving it as we go along. That has resulted in some different publications than what we first envisaged. But the other thing is to do a much more scientific evaluation at the company level. And this is really the core of it from my point of view, that the labour inspectors contact us and tell us when they're going to do an inspection in a company. They make an appointment or they decide they're going to spontaneously go to a company. They let us know who that company is. We identify a control company that's about the same size, in the same branch, in the same area, and we do interviews by telephone with those companies before the labour inspector ever goes there. And we're going to do them again 1 year after the labour inspectors have been there, and see if we can find a difference of behavioural change in the company. And we're using the control group because the world's changing, and we're worried that we need to know what's due to the labour inspectorate and what might be just due to general improvement in practice. So this is a fairly ambitious scientific study, but it's working. We've got about 300 company interviews done now, and at the end of the year, the first round will be finished, and we'll be starting on the second round. I didn't write it here, but we've found a very high level of compliance by the companies, and although the interview was supposed to take 20 minutes, we're finding that it's taking almost twice that, because the companies get very interested in the topic and start to ask their own questions and bring in their own experiences in the interviews. The other thing is that we couldn't get all of the labour inspectors to be cooperative with this project. We can't enforce them to do it. But at the moment, 80% of them are doing it. Of course, they were worried that we were just going to see how good they are as labour inspectors, and we tried to emphasise that that was not our aim. And so it took a little while to get them all on board, but I think that's a very good participation at this rate. Some of the cantons have been accepted, but those were cantons where there were specific problems that we had to make exceptions and say we'll leave them out. But they're ones where it's very small, and they maybe only have one labour inspector whose tasks are quite large and where it really would not have been feasible to include them. So where do we go from now, apart from the coffee pause? At this stage in the piece, we expect the project to be finished in 1 year, and then we're very optimistic that we're going to have a lot of information about how we can improve the labour inspection process and how to support the labour inspectors in their task. And that's, in my mind, a nice ergonomic intervention for this job.
So thank you very much for the presentation, and as Maggie already mentioned, we really have a break now, but I think we had a very productive first session, so it's time to rest, right? Just to explain where to go, it's on the 3rd floor, it's room number 301, and you can use an elevator or stairs just to go there, and it will be, when you get out of the elevator or stairs, it will be on the left side of the room. Tātad arī latviski es pateikšu, tātad mums kafijas pauze notiek 3. stāvā, jā, tātad 301. auditorija. Jā, tātad 3. stāvs var izkāpt no lifta un arī uzkāpt arī pa kāpnēm, un tātad kreisajā pusītē tad būs uzklāts galvā. Okay, so see you at after 1 hour at 3:15.